If you have questions or notes for the speaker, please make those notes by using the chat function right here. You can send them privately to the speaker, or you can send them to the entire group, but please do that in between speeches as well. As a reminder, this meeting will be recorded, and it's our policy that by participating in our meeting that you agree to be recorded, and our recording will be available publicly on YouTube and on our website and other social media sites. And if you give a speech and you ever need that not to happen, just let me know and we can either pause the recording or we can remove it for you. If you would like to become a member, you can start here and send your application in from the Start Here button. And at this time, I'd like to put the gavel down and say, start our meeting, and welcome to Advanced Toastmasters Online. Gavel down. And I am the Toastmaster for the evening. Today, my name is Dawn Nocera. And I'm going to read the Toastmasters. The mission of our particular Toastmasters Club is we are an advanced Toastmasters Club which supports Maverick leaders to have more impact by providing advanced feedback on leadership skills and discovering what it means to be out-of-the-box innovative leaders. Our theme for today is actually conspiracies. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing and get back onto the main screen and say thank you and welcome. And I'm going to introduce our our helpers for today. But we don't have any on our agenda. And I see Aaron, you've joined us. Any chance you'd like to help out by being our awe counter and our grammarian or our general evaluator for today? Aaron?
I can be an ad counter because I'm still on a call on something, so I can just listen through.
Okay, that sounds great. And so as an awe counter, would you like to just share what you'll be doing?
Okay, so fellow Toastmasters, most distinguished guests, we focus as an ad counter is to look at the unnecessary connectives in every person's speeches so that we can identify and help you to control your speech to make it more fluent and make it even more presentable, professional in everyone's future presentations. So that I'll be doing the report at the end of the meeting. Back to you, Toastmaster of the day. Thank you, Aaron. And as far as the word for the day is, I think we're just going to use that word conspiracy. Conspiracy is a I had the definition and it just eluded me, but I think we all just know what that means, or maybe we'll just make that the word. If you can use it in your speech or while you're speaking, that will be a bonus. And I'll keep my ears out for it. I'm also going to serve today as our timer, and I will share the green when you're at green, the yellow when you're halfway through, and the red when your time is up. And for speeches, I think most of our speeches today are 5 to 7. I think, Tammy, is yours longer?
No, let's do 5 to 7.
Okay. And so I will keep track of that time. And for now, then I'm going to introduce our first speaker of the day. Do I have an introduction for you, Tammy?
I posted one out there. Did it go away?
Well, let me look.
Oh, it's gone.
It's gone.
It is. Well, the title of my speech is I Want to Believe. Don't start timing me yet. And It does have to do with conspiracies.
Awesome. How nice. Okay, so I Want to Believe is Tammy's speech title. And she is speaking from the Speaking to Inform Manual, Abstract Concepts. And please help me welcome Tammy Lang for her speech, I Want to Believe. Go ahead, Tammy.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. I'd like to pose a couple of questions to you. My first question is, how do you spend your Friday nights? Maybe you do things with the family, maybe it's movie night out, maybe it's movie night in. At my house with my husband, we spend every Friday night watching a show on the History Channel called Ancient Aliens. I will tell you, we've probably seen every episode at least 3 times. So you kind of see where I'm going with my speech today. My next question for you is, what was your favorite show back between 1993 to 1999? I know that may be a stretch for your memory, but one of my favorite shows during that time period was The X-Files. That being said, I think you know where I'm going with my conspiracy theory. There's this huge conspiracy theory behind the government and what they have and haven't released as far as does alien exist. There is a group called the Majestic 12, MJ12. This is an organization that's legendary in UFO circles. It spawned countless books, documentaries, and TV shows. The Dark Skies is another TV show. MJ12 thwarted Mulder and Scully through several episodes in the X-Files, and it's also mentioned several times in Ancient Aliens. Again, so this is a government group that we believe was formed to maybe get rid of the theory that there's aliens out there or hide the evidence out there. If you have watched the X-Files, there's several bridge episodes woven throughout the 9th season, which is all about the alien conspiracy. We have to ask ourselves, TV show, fact or fiction? I didn't really know until I started watching some of these episodes of Ancient Aliens where you can see some connections. I'm like, either this is a huge coincidence or somebody knows something. The other thing is, if you've ever heard of the name Travis Walton, he was in a famous alien abduction from 1976. His story has never changed. So then we have to kind of still wonder, is there really alien life out there that we live among and don't even realize too? There are such a thing as alien researchers. They do exist. Their first documentation of the MJ12 came from 35mm negatives that were found that they didn't even know existed. This was dating back to April 1954. There was also a special operations manual called Extraterrestrial Entities and Technology Recovery and Disposal. Top secret, high-level clearance. Never heard of it, neither have I. President Truman actually was the president that created this alleged Majestic 12. At the same time, he also created other U.S. agencies, including the National Security Act, the National Security Council, and the CIA. Coincidence that they were all created at the same time. Perhaps you've also heard of July 8th, 1947 incident in Roswell, New Mexico. This was when an alleged alien aircraft crashed there. The government claims it was a weather balloon. News headline prior to the government claim said that there were unidentified humans found. Was that our alien presence? Child-sized coffins were ordered from a local mortuary after this weather balloon crash. Family members of the U.S. soldier who found the evidence report even today that he was threatened to not disclose what he saw. Another interesting fact, think about July 1947. This was after World War II. These conspiracy theorists believe perhaps these aliens were after our atomic bomb technology. Coincidence? We've all heard of General Eisenhower. He sent a memo back in July 1947 to his lieutenant general to direct him to proceed to a common location, to appraise the objects found, examine the interior of the craft. Perhaps an atomic engine was discovered, which was reported by Robert Oppenheimer, that name. That's the founder of the atomic bomb. The craft itself comprises of a propulsion system, and this is what we hear about in the 21st century, not back in 1947. So we wonder then, was MJ12's goal to examine and reverse ET craft? Also, the first U.S. Secretary of Defense was found dead in 1947 at the Naval Hospital. He was being treated for depression. It was ruled a suicide, but some believe he was assassinated as he was about to go public with information on what he had seen, including the Nazis, perhaps had ET technology. The Germans had developed an alien spaceship, and they also believe this Secretary of Defense was a member of this Majestic 12. Was he silenced? Because he discovered alien presence. Also in 1954, Ike met, they believe, he met ETs at Edwards Air Force Base. Ike's granddaughter, or great-granddaughter, Laura Eisenhower, She claims MJ12 is a real organization, but he was not able to shut down the organization. He wanted to release the information, but he chose to keep it secret. In fact, every president since Eisenhower has been briefed and was wanted to release information, but hasn't done so. Other information from MJ12 was there were some reported documents that were reportedly burned in a fire, but retrieved. And in these documents, it appears to be a document saying that President Kennedy knew things that others thought he would break to the public. 2 weeks later, Kennedy was assassinated. Conspiracy? March 1994, these MJ12 researchers discovered a second roll of film in Maryland, and they still are trying to document the legitimacy of that film. We also believe perhaps the first landing on the moon, there was highly classified missions that preceded it, so perhaps July 20th, 1969 wasn't the first landing on the moon. We know this secret space program may have been around since the 20th century. We think there'll be some disclosures coming from the Freedom of Information Act. President Trump signed the Space Council Executive Order to reinstate the space exploration program. Coincidence? So I ask you today, do you believe it? Is it a conspiracy? It's up to you to decide. I'm kind of still on the fence. I find it interesting to research this. And 25 years after Scully and Mulder first appeared on the X-Files, I want to believe. I want to show you my cup here, my little alien cup. This is from Roswell, New Mexico, and we visited the tour trap that it is too. But it says the alien saying, "My bad." Do they exist? Madam Toastmaster.
Well, that is wonderful. All of that yummy information. We'll have to talk off the camera sometime about all that fun stuff. And at this time, I'm going to introduce our second speaker, and that is Doug Thiessen. And today, Doug is he's starting over. Actually, after nearly 20 years in Toastmasters, Doug is starting over, and this time with Pathways. He is working on his second project of level 1, evaluation and feedback. This is the first speech of 2 for that project. The second speech requires using the feedback from today to improve the speech. In this speech, Doug will present a fundamental method for being more successful. His title is Consistently Productive Daily Habits. Please help me welcome Doug Thiessen.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, and welcome, fellow Toastmasters. If I were to offer you $1 million right now, or the choice for I'll give you a penny today and twice as much tomorrow and have it double each day for a month, which one would you choose? Now, I think many people have already heard this particular example, but it is amazing. Because when you think about a penny doubling each day, after a week, it's worth about $2.50. So not very much. But yet, after a month, after 30 days, you would have accumulated over $5 million. So for those who say, I want the million now, well, if you just wait for a month and let that compound, you'd be amazed what 1 penny can do. And today I want to talk to you about the power of compounding. Albert Einstein is famously quoted as saying that compounding is the 8th wonder of the world. And as author Jeff Olson wrote in his book, The Slight Edge, which is a great book, I highly recommend it, what we do every day does compound as well, and this can be positive or negative. It's the things that we do every day, whether it's watching TV or exercising or what we eat or what we're choosing to study, all make an enormous difference over time. even though on a day-to-day basis, you don't really see much change. But when you're doing something consistently, every day, in the long term, you'd be amazed at the type of progress and the type of growth that you can achieve through consistently productive daily habits. Or if you're doing things every day that you really shouldn't be doing that aren't positive, you'd be amazed at the results over years. I certainly know that one personally because I really need to improve my diet. I want to give you an example of a famous sports figure. Jerry Rice is an all-star football player. He had a 20-year career in the NFL, playing for San Francisco mostly, and he retired in 2005, I believe it was, and he was over 40 at the time. That is a very old age for most football players. They don't last that long. But by the time Jerry Rice had retired, he had set practically every record, both for single season and certainly for cumulative over his career, in terms of scoring and success in the NFL. And a large part of why he was so successful is because of what he would do every day. He didn't necessarily start out as the most talented. He was never the fastest runner in the league. But he worked harder than everybody else. After every practice, every day, he would continue to practice solo for several more hours on the field after everyone else had gone home. And in the off season, he would run for hours and work out and train weights for hours at a time, virtually every single day through the year. And because of this, he achieved an incredible success on the field and in his physique. Even when he was 40 and continuing these workouts, some of the rookies and young players on the team would try and work out with him, going, he's an old man, I can take him anytime. And they would be flagging and lagging by the time he was maybe halfway done, and Jerry Rice was still charging forward after everyone else was falling down, because he'd been working for years, daily, on that routine, on that exercise. And it showed. It made a huge difference. That is the power of the slight edge. So I want you to consider what you do every day and how you can improve it. And it doesn't have to be a massive change. If, like a lot of people, not necessarily Toastmasters, but like most people, don't read any longer after they've graduated from whatever degree they have. If you would opt to read 15 minutes a day, that's not very long, but it adds up. You'd be amazed at how many books you could finish in just a year in 15 minutes a day. And I read a statistic that said if you were to read 1 hour or study 1 hour a day daily on whatever topic you choose, within about 7 years, you would be a world expert on that topic. So work on, choose whatever you want to get good at. What do you want to be successful at? And then find things that you can do, simple things every day that you can do, and keep doing them. Build those productive daily habits so that over time they compound into something that you'll be amazed. Bill Gates was quoted as saying, most people overestimate what they can do in 1 year, and they underestimate what they can do in 10 years. What can you do in 10 years' time if you just start with consistently productive daily habits. Madam Toastmaster.
That's me. I'm not just the timer. Yay. Great speech. I really enjoyed that. And I will enjoy evaluating you when it's time as well. So at this time, I would like to turn our meeting over to our table topics master, Mark Worthy. And Mark will be leading us in the table topics portion of our meeting. And Mark, if you can unmute yourself and pop on in here. And we will be doing the table topics until 30 minutes after the hour, just to kind of keep that frame. And I'm going to put a red folder up for the table topics just so we can move on to the evaluation portion of the meeting. So this time, Mark, it's all you.
Thank you very much, Madam Toastmaster. Conspiracies. I recall that earlier when you were discussing the agenda, Madam Toastmaster, the tone in your voice changed. It went down. It became ominous. We think of conspiracies in terms of nefarious activities conducted by a cadre of specialists who have a particular agenda, a hidden agenda that no one else knows about. It made me think about the various situations we find ourselves in today. Make an effort to utilize the time that's allowed to all of the respondents. Imagine this. You have a nice old man down the street from where you live. He's unfortunately transitioning into Alzheimer's, but everybody's always liked him. He has no family now. And you volunteer to help tidy out his attic because they're going to move him to a managed care facility. In the process of helping this man, you discover a box. Now keep in mind, he has no one. In that box, you stumble across information that explains without question and doubt that the Kennedy assassination that was referenced earlier was a conspiracy. What would you do with that information? Andrea.
Thank you, Mark. Actually, I'm really not sure what I would do with that information. It's a great question. I do have a neighbor down the street who is transitioning into Alzheimer's, and we regularly help him out. And I wouldn't be at all surprised if he had some kind of conspiracy thing hidden in his house somewhere. As far as the Kennedy assassination goes, I think there's been theories for years about what's gone on with them. And even if I brought this new one to light, it would still be questioned by everyone as whether or not it was true or not. I don't know. Was the Kennedy assassination really a conspiracy? Probably. There was probably something that went on with that we won't ever understand. I would love to throw it into the hat so that people could research it, see how close it was to the truth, see if they could find any other evidence that might corroborate this conspiracy. I think it's fun to think about the conspiracy idea of the Kennedy assassination. Who knows? I'm glad I wasn't there. I'm glad I was too young to remember it. So I'd like to give it to somebody so that they could look at it. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Andrea. I appreciate that. In recent months, we have heard about a supposed activity in which quite a few people are engaged in establishing a government within a government. Convince us that the deep state is all fiction. Aaron.
I'm actually having no idea what does it mean by deep state. What do you mean by deep state?
Okay, deep. Well, that would influence your response. Let me give you another question, or let me reconsider the question I'm going to ask. Perhaps I'll get back to you, Aaron.
Sure.
Earlier, as we were preparing for the meeting, there was a discussion going on regarding the megacities that have established themselves. Also, the realities of climatic changes. You think about the world and what's going on in terms of climate changes and so forth. There are different points of view. Convince us that global warming is a hoax. Doug.
Thank you, Mark, for the question. Convince us that global warming is a hoax. Well, I'd be lying if I were to try and actually answer that question, because I'm a scientist. And the overwhelming scientific evidence shows that global warming is happening. We are experiencing climate change. It's the people, the real conspiracy is the people who are saying that it's not. And particularly, those people represent industries that desperately want to keep older technology and dependence on things like coal and oil and those fuels that are contributing to global warming, to CO2 emissions, which are causing it. They want to stop the move toward cleaner energy, because if we change to pure solar power and wind power and hydropower and drop oil and coal, those barons who run those industries will lose money. So they're spending billions of dollars to try and put out information to say that it's not true. And unfortunately, even if they're convincing some people, they're still losing. Because with the development in technology, solar power is becoming cheaper and more efficient every day. And that effect is compounding. So it will become not just environmentally sensible, but economically viable and more profitable to switch to clean energy. And those old technologies are going to lose regardless of what we think on global warming.
Thank you, Doug, for a thorough analysis and from a scientific point of view. Why would the House of Windsor want Princess Diana eliminated? Aaron.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow Toastmasters, why, oh why? She's the cutest princess that's available in the real planet other than Mario Bros. Princesses. And I don't see the reason why that person has to be eliminated. That lovely girl. But there was a reason behind that. I suspect, smelling something fishy. Remember who Princess Diana actually dated? That shopping mall still exists in London, Paris. Still the richest, most expensive shopping mall. And if that person the Prince Charming is revealed to be poorer, less wealthy than the rich businessman, then that will bring shame to the royal family. That actually brings so much shame, especially when there are so many different stories about how prince and princesses meet other princes and princesses. They cannot let this royalty leak out to a commoner, especially a rich commoner. It's just like imagine Cinderella wearing a glass slipper, finding just Donald Trump in there. Imagine that moment, that you visualize that situation. Then you understand why there's a conspiracy that that person, Princess Diana, has to be eliminated. Because of shame. The shame cannot be revealed to anyone else. Not just that. Then there will be royal products coming out from Harrods. Royal princess crowns, things that are meant to be secret, are revealed to a shopping mall that people can buy. People can become princesses, real princesses again, and live happily ever after. And I believe that can be the only possible, plausible reason that Princess Diana has to be eliminated in that situation. Back to you.
Thank you very much. We've taken a journey down several different roads. I appreciate the responses provided, as well as the theatrical dimensions provided by Aaron. I think about conspiracies now and then, and we have to be conscious and always look for the truth. On that note, I yield to our Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you, Mark. That was very quick and very wonderful in leading us on that journey through table topics of conspiracies. And I was very happy not to be on the receiving end of those questions today because they were kind of challenging. I think everyone did a great job. At this point, we are going to move on to the evaluation portion of our meeting. And I'm going to just start with, since we don't have a general evaluator for today, I'm going to start with just moving into that evaluation. And our first evaluator for today is Andrea. And Andrea is evaluating Tammy on her speech today. So Andrea, if you can just pop on in and start your evaluation. Remember that we will be doing the round robin as well. So thank you, Andrea.
Tammy, great speech. I have 4 things that I'm supposed to evaluate on you. How well you define the scope of your speech. You did a great job. You engaged us. We realized right up front that you were going to talk about conspiracy and ETs and how it worked in the United States. You engaged us with that right away. And the topic was narrow enough that you could talk about it in the time frame allotted, and you did a great job with that. That's a huge topic, and to narrow it down to MJ-12 and how the government really handled some of those things really helped us to define it. And I know that that's something that we all have to work on, is narrowing our topics to fit into the time frame allotted. You were very, very, very effective at drawing out expert opinions and expert information. I heard names dropped like Truman and Oppenheimer, and talking about Majestic 12 and what the CIA did. You had a lot of great information. But at the same time, you did an excellent job of incorporating pop culture, and so that we could all engage in it, even if we aren't into conspiracy theory or UFOs or aliens or any of those other things. We could engage in the topic and have fun with it and enjoy it, because really it is kind of a fun and enjoyable topic. That's something that we all have to work on, is finding ways to make our topics ones that help the audience engage in. Tammy, you did an excellent job, and especially when you got to the very end and you used your cup, and we could all think about how we go on trips and we bring home little things to remind us of something that we really enjoy. One of the things I really enjoyed about your speech is that you did use your hands in the right places. You could tell at the very beginning of the speech, my hands were too low so you couldn't see them. And you used your hands really well. You also had really good vocal variety. And you leaned into the camera when you really wanted us to engage in what was going on. So I really enjoyed that. I might suggest to you that you get some lighting that shines on your face instead of just from your back, so that we can really see those great facial expressions. But I thank you overall for your speech. That was really, really fun. Now I want to open it up to everybody else. Is there anybody else who would like to say something? If so, open up your mic and jump on in. Mark.
Yes, I related to it very well because prior to Mexico, I lived in New Mexico. I spent 3 years there, and the Roswell incident was very popular, almost to the point of being cultish. So there was a great deal happening in terms of people who would make these sojourns to Roswell. And I found a connection with what Tammy was saying, and I related to it very well.
Thank you. Anyone else? Dawn.
I would like to just comment on, again, on the organization and how much there was packed into the speech, and it still stayed really focused. It didn't feel overwhelming. It kind of felt very, everything just felt very aligned and to the point, which feels very, I think it's a masterful thing that you've done, because this concept was an abstract concept. So you created this speech around an abstract concept, but it felt very concrete. And I think that's hard to do. I think you did that well. So that's my feedback.
Anyone else? Doug?
I just want to say that I thought that speech was really interesting and informative. And I mean, really, what I would have to say has been kind of covered already, so I'm not going to add more, but thank you for the speech. It really made me think.
Great. Aaron, did you want to add anything? You don't have to if you don't want to.
If I have to add something, is that just imagine Tammy's speech. After hearing it, look at how Andrew is so excited to evaluate you. Think about how much impact it has bring to create thoughtful, inspirational thoughts. I repeated the word. So that is a very great speech. I love to hear it again. That's the comment I would like to say. Back to you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And Dawn, it's back to you.
Thank you, Andrea, for leading that evaluation. And at this point, I'm going to evaluate Doug's speech. We had 2 great speeches today. And Doug, I want to also comment on, and I'll try to do this in the third person, which is very challenging for me. So I will keep this in mind. I believe our speakers today were both very organized in their speech, their speaking. And one of the things that I appreciated about Doug's speech is the organization in the fact that he started this speech out with a concept. And the concept was the penny. And that's a great story. We might have all heard it before, but it's a concept that tied so really well in with his speech about daily actions and how those daily actions can change and shift the results and how the course of our lives can be over time. And the bulk of his story or his speech was about the story about Jerry Rice and his daily routines and how he mastered what he could do within a 40. So he was 40 when he retired. So that's a 20-year career in football, which is pretty phenomenal. At the end, there was this call to action and first there was something to consider, and then there was a call to action, which I appreciate the fact that it was well organized. And I know I led us through that organization of a speech, but it was so well organized, and it just felt like there was a nice flow of speech or speech craft that was a good template for all of us to use in the future. The call to action at the end, which was think about what we could do in our daily habits, and ending with that quote, felt fulfilling to me. It felt like I could get something out of his speech. I could personally take something out of his speech and learn from it and become a better speaker. And at this time, I would like to open the floor up to other people who would like to add to this. Andrea?
Doug, I just wanted to thank you for adding Einstein into the whole picture. I like the visual of that. I love that he jumped right into the camera. I love the visuals. It helps me to engage even more. So thank you for all of you who add visuals to what you're doing.
Great. And Mark, you had something that you want to add, maybe? You're unmuted.
Yes. I really enjoyed the wide variety of examples that Doug used. I'm familiar with Jerry Rice and his lengthy career and the integrity with which he demonstrated on the field and off of the field. You covered many issues, but you did it in a smooth manner so that I didn't feel overwhelmed by the substance of what you were saying. I appreciate what you said, how you said it, and the way you said it. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Mark. And Tammy, did you have your hand up? Yes, go ahead, Tammy.
I was just going to say, I thought that was a great speech. It was so well organized, and I love the compounded interest. I teach personal finance, and I know this topic, but you mentioned you're starting over, and wow, this was really kind of neat to see. You've been doing this for, I think you said 20 years, and how organized it was, and you were engaging, and of course, like Andrea mentioned, Einstein in the picture too. So I applaud you with the organization of your speech. That's all I have.
And Andrea, go ahead.
I want to jump back in because one of the things that you're supposed to do, Doug, with this speech is have something that you can work on and try it again. So I'm going to give you something that you can work on, and it is the drift when you're talking like this. And we all do it, and the looking down and then coming slowly back up, trying to focus in on where the camera is would be really helpful for us. Other than that, obviously, I love the speech. So just something that you could work on. Thank you, Dawn.
And one more little tiny piece, Doug. I think you have a really good command of this, the 12 by 12. It's not really a 12 by 12. I'm going to keep calling it a 12 by 12 inch space until I measure it and figure out exactly what it is that we have here. But another challenge would be to move your hands up a little bit, maybe back up just a tiny bit so we can see a little bit more of you. It's just something to try, maybe even the next time. We're comfortable. We know where we're comfortable on that camera. We know what makes us feel good, but maybe try something new the next time. Maybe even stand up, which would be super challenging. However, it might be something to incorporate or try to do in the next one. This was a super well organized speech, and I look forward to the next hearing of it. And did anyone else have anything to say? Aaron, did you want to unmute yourself and pop in?
Yep, I'm the only one that haven't said anything. I was thinking about, for Doug, there are two very great elements of his speech. The first thing is he always managed to be very composed in front of the camera and making sure that we are connected. Sustainability is one of the hardest elements to keep someone interested in that speech, no matter how the content is really great. So he managed to make us feel very comfortable, very engaging, with a very lovely smile. His eyes are on the screen. I can feel his soul connecting to me. That kind of situation. That is really awesome that I will see. The challenge for Doug is that I always see him sitting in the same seat with the same background, with the same thing, always. I would love to see something different that matches the content of the speech, that may actually make it stand out. I want to see more of that impact. Like if you mention someone like Jerry Rice, for me, I'm not a sports fan. I have to like, who is this guy? I need to search on Google and then find that information. That may be relevant to it. So maybe a bit like for those who are not sports fans, can be other characters that may relate the same effect as Jerry Rice, for example. That can be a challenge, but I'm sure it's a very great speech. Organization-wise, perfect. I love the sweetness. It's like the sweet and tasty bits of a pie is all in that speech itself. It's depending on how we can take that pie and that is an excellent element because we can slowly digest it while we are interested in that speech. So great job.
Thank you, Aaron. And at this time, I'm going to go straight into the general evaluation and bring in my grammarian. Aaron, would you like to give a grammarian's report also? I'm not sure that while you're there. Yeah, super.
So I'm going to give my counter reports. According to my analysis and my detailed calculations of all the unnecessary connectives, I'm hereby announcing that there are less than 5 arms and and unnecessary connective by every single one. So give a round of applause. The common wordings or the unnecessary connectives that I've seen today is actually not and, the, so, not those, but repeated words. So if you're nervous, you started and repeated the previous word. So I noticed something like was, or to, or the, or thoughtful thoughts. Like for example, I did make a mistake of thoughtful thoughts, which is repeated. That kind of unnecessary connectives. So if one to challenge on that to improve oneself, I would suggest that there is a need for pausing. You do not need to rush. You can slowly let the message sink in while creating the suspense effect. That will be my report as a counter. I didn't see too much. Mainly, each of us have one unnecessary connective, including myself. So back to you.
Thank you, Aaron. And at this time, I would love to give a very accurate timers report, but I'm going to have to say it's going to be a little inaccurate, just a tiny bit inaccurate. For our speech or table topics, Andrea, you were at 1 minute 22 seconds, Doug 2 minutes 13 seconds, Aaron 2 minutes 15 seconds. Evaluations, Andrea, you were at 2 minutes and 46 seconds before you opened it up. I just kept going with mine, so the whole evaluation portion for mine was about 5 minutes. So for mine and the additional was about 5 minutes. And
Dawn?
yes?
I actually timed you while you were evaluating me because I wasn't sure if you were doing it for yourself.
Okay.
You opened up the floor at about 2 minutes and 14 seconds.
Okay. Okay, good. Good. Thank you. That was within timing because I was I was wondering about that. Thank you. And then as far as the speakers go, one of you, I wrote down 7 minutes and 2 seconds. I think that was Tammy's. And Doug's, I think yours was either right at that point too, but I did not write your time down, and I have to apologize. I will go back and retime it again for purposes, but you were within time, and I'm pretty sure you closed right after I either shared the red. I think that's what it was. I just remember sharing one, and then you finished up. So that's my inaccurate timers report. Thank you all for allowing me to be inaccurate when I am. and I will try to do better next time. And as far as the meeting goes, thank you everyone. Thanks Mark for coming in and a great great table topics. And you may have gotten that conspiracies beforehand to pull those things in together, but those were phenomenal questions, really good, thoughtful questions. And like I said, I'm grateful that I wasn't called on today, because my mind explodes sometimes with conspiracy theories. And all of our evaluators did a great job. I did a great job. Andrea, you did a great job. In evaluations, I find that I think we all have some strengths, and we can all learn from other people with the other evaluators of what's really done well. And I think, Andrea, you have a really great view of the speakers, and you are also sharing the technology piece. And it's something that I always want to incorporate, and sometimes I forget. So I appreciate that you're doing it, and I love the fact that we open it up for everyone else to chime in, so we can all share our additional thoughts on what else we are seeing once the evaluations are going. And Erin, thanks again for popping in and helping out. I appreciate that. And I'm glad that our meeting worked out, that Tammy could speak and Andrea could go into next week. It just worked out really nicely. So I appreciate it. And once again, the caliber of our speeches are excellent. I think it shows that we care, and our speakers care about themselves as speakers and care about what they're talking about. And their level of expertise today was wonderful. So with that, I'm going to say thank you, and I'm going to stop the recording and move on to the agenda for next week. So with that, let me stop my recording. There it is.